Anne. If your cute tail got cut off, you think it'd grow back eventually?
I'm not some sort of lizard.
This is part 2 of Minaria Friends. Welcome back to AniRecapz. Like and subscribe so you never miss our quality uploads. After all the excitement of the mock battle, the school brings all the students onto the beach for some fun. Hannah and Liz plan to play volleyball. Hannah informs Liz that she will not go easy on her because of the fact that she is her junior. Liz also claims she plays to win and has no intention to lose to her. Miranda acts as a referee and both make the teams play the game. The students prepare to watch an epic volleyball match. While the students are playing volleyball, Greta takes Anne somewhere secluded to teach her how to swim. Anne feels embarrassed to learn it in front of all her classmates, so Greta has chosen a different place for learning. Both go through the forest to reach their destination. Greta and Anne reach the top of the hill, from where they come to see the beautiful view of the beach and the sea. Anne admires the view and tries to stay there and not go any further. Greta encourages her and shows her their next route, which they have to take. Meantime, at the volleyball match, Poppy and Hannah are up against Liz and Lou's team. However, Lou, being clumsy, always gets hit on her face by the ball. Seeing Lou knocked out by Hannah's shot, Liz brings out a magic doll. She uses this doll to help swing the match in their favor. From the top of the hill, Greta and Anne enter a cave in the mountain, which is embedded with different stones. Inside the cave, Anne moves by holding Greta's hand as she feels frightened inside the cave. She reveals to Greta that she loves to spend alone time with Greta and has always wanted to have this opportunity, but she does not like to learn to swim right away. Anne holds Greta with such a grip, which makes it difficult for Greta to walk. Anne wants to go back, but Greta stops her and forces her to continue moving so they can achieve their aim. Anne tries to tease Greta by touching her weird at her tail. Greta feels it but keeps on walking and sticking to her plan. Anne then agrees to keep on going, but on several conditions. She wants Greta to spend the night staring at the stars and light off some fireworks together. Greta agrees with Anne's every condition, but when she mentions having a sleepover with Greta, our clueless girl unintentionally agrees. As soon as she recognizes her mistake, she tries to back off from the sleepover condition, but Anne declares that it is too late. By making Greta confused and leaving her disturbed, Anne was able to trick Greta into agreeing to a sleepover. After traveling for a short time, they reach a place with a beautiful view. Greta strips down to her swimsuit and instructs Anne to do the same, but Anne does not seem interested and goes to make a sandcastle. Greta wants her to strip down to her swimsuit, but Anne resists and informs Greta that if she really wants her to change, she has to do it for her. Anne makes the situation awkward for Greta and keeps on making the sandcastle. Back at the beach, Hannah and Liz have now turned the volleyball match into a battle arena. Liz uses the magic doll to control Lou's movements to block the ball. Lou is powerless as the ball keeps hitting her. Meanwhile, Greta makes Anne realize her main purpose of coming here and successfully persuades her to change into her swimsuit. Anne listens to Greta and goes inside the water. However, instead of learning to swim, Greta uses her magic to walk on water. Greta instructs her not to use magic, but Anne does not want to learn swimming anymore when she can use her magic. Greta takes Anne into the water herself and holds her to go deeper into the water. Anne became horrified and starts to panic, but Greta ensures her safety. She takes Anne to the center of the sea, from where Anne cannot feel the ground below her feet. It makes her really scared. Greta then leaves Anne's hand and steps aside to help her learn herself. Anne does not feel confident and seems to drown, but Greta catches Anne's body with her tail and helps her float on the water. After several attempts, Anne finally learns to float in water, all thanks to Greta. The volleyball match ends with both teams collapsing from exhaustion, but Hannah and Liz end up not giving up on winning the match. After learning to swim, Anne and Greta go back to the rest of the class. The class sees firecrackers, which Miranda especially ordered for them from someplace in the east. They feel hesitant to fire the crackers, but finally they gather the courage and light up the firecrackers to enjoy its beautiful glazing light. They enjoy their time with every burst of light in the sky. Lou, in her usual clumsy nature, trips and makes all the firecrackers explode on the ground. Greya and Anne are standing near the sea admiring the fireworks. Anne inquires what Greya wants to do now. Greya is happy that they managed to do everything they wanted, but in Anne's book, there is still one thing left. She shows her desire to have a sleepover with Anne. Anne also wants to wear matching pajamas with Greya, which she previously bought from Miranda's clothing shop. Anne is excited about the sleepover, and her excitement is making Greya feel uneasy. After returning from the beach, Greya works at the library desk and receives books from students coming to return them. Suddenly, Greya gets touched on her tail weirdly. She screams in the library. Her screams bring the attention of everyone there toward her. Greya politely apologizes to everyone for her action. When she looks down at her tail, she finds Anne there. It was Anne who teased her by stroking her tail. Anne then thanks Greya for helping her out with library duty. Greya, without responding, blushes in embarrassment. The weather gets chilly, and it starts raining in Mysteria. Greya collects books and borrowing cards and arranges them accordingly at the library desk. Meanwhile, Anne comes across a different book and begins reading its synopsis. The book shows the first step to successfully asking your date out. It is to gather information about the date. The book sometimes says the best move you can make is to be assertive. When Anne first reads it, she does not understand the meaning of assertive, but then she begins to laugh in a sinister manner. Greya looks at her and asks about the book Anne is currently reading. Anne smiles at her and shows her the book, mentioning it the book to snag a date. She also shows her the love potion which comes along with the book. Anne holds the potion and wonders if it works on girls. However, her words make her look more suspicious. Anne does not care and continues reading the love book. The rain is making the surrounding atmosphere soothing and beautiful. It also makes the atmosphere of the library cozy and romantic. Greya keeps on working in the library, but Anne sits still with the love potion, wondering about its reliability. While thinking about the potion, Anne looks at Greya's tail and inquires whether her cute tail can regenerate if it gets cut off. Greya finds Anne's question a bit offensive because she is not the lizard and cannot regenerate her tail. After Anne gets her answer, she tries to poke Greya's tail out of her flirting nature. But just at that moment, Greya suspects Anne's action. She moves her tail aside, avoiding Anne's poke. After that, Anne and Greya begin working in the library. They continue with their library duties. While going to arrange the books, Anne comes to see the rain, and she finds it calming. Anne also notices an empty library and wonders if students are done using the library today. Just then, something naughty hits her mind, and she quickly places books on their shelves. She then rushes to Greya and asks her to play hide and seek in the library. Greya hesitantly agrees as she knows Anne would not take no for an answer. Anne at the library desk closes her eyes and counts. Greya looks for a place to hide inside the big library. When Anne is done counting, she opens her eyes and eagerly goes to find Greya. Anne believes Greya must be hiding in the shadows. She quickly looks down at the desk but does not find Greya there. Anne keeps looking inside the library. She sits and looks under the study tables to find Greya, but she is not there. Then Anne thinks that she has to consider Greya's tail and wings before looking for her hiding spot. While thinking, Anne believes Greya must be hiding on the ground floor and quickly looks down, but she still fails to find her. Anne then believes she must have planned to stay close to her by hiding behind in the shadows. She turns suddenly expecting to find Greya, but she was not there. Anne continues to search and ponder where Greya must be in the massive library. She immediately gets an idea of where Greya might be hiding. Anne rushes to the other side of the library and starts looking for Greya. She talks aloud while searching for Greya. She claims that Greya certainly knows how to make things interesting, and that's why she is hiding somewhere this difficult. Anne begins calling Greya's name and saying that she knows her location, but Greya does not respond. Anne looks behind every shelf and every possible place where she thought of but finds no one. She even tries to look under the water. Annie is disheartened and returns to the library desk without Greya. She calls out to Greya and wants her to come back now, but Greya does not show up. Anne feels the loneliness of being alone in the big library. She sits in front of the desk and lowers her head. She starts to sob and does not notice Greya coming down. It appears she was hiding on the roof. flying with the help of her wings. As soon as Greya comes down and, without saying a word, goes to hug her. It seems like she missed Greya. While hugging Greya, Anne reveals that she has finally found Greya. What a good strategy! Pretend to cry during hide and seek, then claim you find them once they try to comfort you. After that, Greya and Anne finish their work on the library desk, and both then decide to return home together. On the way, both hold each other's hands and blush in embarrassment. Despite this, both keep on holding hands and bringing up small talk while walking. Greya still wonders if it's still raining, but Annie is unsure. So she responds with a maybe and keeps blushing because of how she is holding Greya's hand. When Greya asks if she has an umbrella by chance, Anne replies no, as she is only enjoying the feel of Greya's hand and intends to keep the answers short. After they get home, Anne offers Greya tea, which she recently made especially for her. When Greya looks at the tea, she is reminded of Anne's words about the love potion. Greya also sees that the love book and potion are currently placed near Anne. She suspects Anne of placing the love potion in her tea. While she is pondering about this, Anne suspiciously wants her to drink the tea because she especially made it for her. Anne's words make Greya become even more apprehensive about the tea. She hesitates about having tea, so Anne decides to drink it first to eliminate her suspicion. Anne takes the first sip, and after placing the cup on the table, inquires if Greya has finished the book she previously borrowed from the library. Greya replies she has not yet finished. She asks Anne about the book she recently borrowed from the library. Anne replies that she borrowed a book that can bring her closer to Greya. Anne's words are very skeptical and Greya begins to tremble. She stands up and spills the tea because she can no longer take the anxiety of not knowing if the tea has the love potion or not. After a few days, the students of the academy are to participate in a festival showcasing their talent. For this purpose, Hannah visits the students' auditorium and practices singing. She first goes through the lyrics, clears her throat, and places the paper down on the ground. She then starts singing a beautiful melody that reverberates around the entire school. Meanwhile, Greya has already awoken early in the morning. By sitting near her room's window, she enjoys the morning breeze. However, she is also holding a script. She had been practicing the whole night and now is tired like hell. Greya stands up to freshen herself, but her fatigue is clearly shown as she feels really weak. She washes her face and tries to cheer up, but it is too difficult for her to stand straight because she has to perform at the festival the following day. Greya wants to stay confident, but she has very low self-esteem and is not able to muster up the courage to perform at the festival. In the meantime, Anne, being highly talented and confident, does not care about the festival. She is sleeping in peace and gets up in a fresh mood. Finally, the day of the festival arrives. Anne, all dressed up as princess, walks back and forth seemingly waiting for someone. Her wait ends when Miranda with Greya comes out of the dressing room. Greya in a princess's costume and looks stunning. Miranda feels proud for making such a beautiful dress for her. Miranda goes to check on the other students' costumes, leaving Anne and Greya alone. The Mysteria Academy is all decorated with different colorful decorations. There are stalls of delicious foods, and everyone is gathered to enjoy the day. Hannah, as the class president, takes care of all the preparations. Miranda also presents Lou with a beautiful dress which she especially prepared for her in order to help her stand out. Before her performance, Greya seems too nervous to even talk. She waits backstage with her script and tries to remain confident, but all in vain. Anne approaches her and admires her dress. Greya believes Annie is the best choice for the role of princess, but they select Greya for the role. Anne encourages her, saying she is princess herself and also people want to see her in such a role. Greya reveals to Anne that she is super nervous and even her stomach hurts. Anne thinks that Greya is in pain and immediately brings out her grimoire to treat her, but Greya calms her down. Her stomach is hurting because of the tension and not because of pain. At the stage, preparations are done, and Hannah comes to the stage to begin her singing performance. Backstage, Anne offers to help Greya revise her lines, but Greya claims to have already crammed them multiple times. When Anne finds no means to help Greya to regain her confidence, she starts with breathing meditation. She teaches Greya to breath in and out in a way to calm her nerves. Greya copies Anne's meditation and calms herself. Anne then gets up and starts speaking Prince's lines to help Greya rehearse with her. Greya has somehow gained some confidence, so she responds to Anne's lines and begins rehearsing with her. After the rehearsal, she finally gets able to be confident of her performance. The time of her performance also arrives and Anne, along with Greya, goes to the stage. Before their performance begins, Hannah shows her singing talent. As soon as Hannah starts singing, she enraptures the whole school with her melodious voice, and everyone around is mesmerized by the tune. After the festival, everything returns to normal. Winter has finally arrived. However, not all is well. Anne and Greya are having a fight which makes everyone uncomfortable. The fight stems when Anne spots Hannah leaving Greya's room. They appear to be talking when Anne spots them. This stuns Anne, and she has been begging Greya for a long time to have a sleepover with her, but Greya always lets her down. Having someone come out of Greya's room and she herself has not been inside infuriated her. She starts having doubts about Hannah and Greya. Well, at least this shows that the green-eyed monster of jealousy can also affect two princesses. When Anne asks Greya to explain the situation, Hannah inquires why Annie is acting weird. Anne loses her temper, and without thinking about it, rudely replies to Hannah. Greya stops Anne and asks her not to be so rude. It hurts Anne so much, and she becomes quiet on the spot. That moment lingers, and the awkwardness spreads. Since that time, Anne and Greya have not been talking to each other. Both sit in front of each other in the library but do not talk at all. Other students find their attitude extremely odd since the two are best friends and are always so close to each other. While both are sitting silently, Hannah arrives. She asks Anne why both friends have not yet figured out their problem and are acting strange, but Anne remains aloof to Hannah and refrains from telling her. When Anne turns away, Hannah begins talking to Greya. She informs Greya that as the student president, she has informed the repair personnel, and they have arrived to finish the work in Greya's room. Hannah then asks Greya to accompany her to her room since repair personnel is working there. As Greya gets up to go with Hannah to her room, they are stunned by the loud sound of a book falling to the floor. They see Anne sitting startled with her book on the floor. Anne has just realized that she was completely wrong about Hannah and Greya. She didn't invite Hannah for a sleepover, rather she was in her room to inspect it for repair. Still upset about Anne's behavior, Greya leaves. When Greya and Hannah leaves, Anne bemoans her misunderstanding of everything that has transpired. She has let her jealousy get the best of her. Days passed and the winter season become colder. Lou, like the other students, makes snowmen to productively avail the excess snow. Greya and Anne are seen attending their class, yet keeping a distance between them. Miranda teaches students about the healing magic that can be used to clear minds. She also informs students that holy magic is usually best known for its defense and purification effects on the body. During the class, Greya sneaks a peek at Anne, but does not dare to talk to her. Miranda keeps teaching different magic lessons, but Greya does not focus on them. She finally calls Anne's name, but Anne, who is sitting with her nose in the book. This sudden outburst stops the entire class and they all look at Greya. Anne, however, does not even look at Greya. Fortunately, the entire class refocuses and begins listening to Miranda's lesson again. After the class, before Greya can find time to talk to Anne, she rushes out of the class to avoid any contact with her. Greya walks down the lawn and suddenly sees two snowmen that remind her of Anne and her friendship. Thinking about Anne makes her feel sad. That night, Greya does not focus on her studies properly. She goes to the window and takes a deep breath, thinking about why this happened to her. The following day at school, Greya has breakfast at her and Anne's favorite place, but the pace reminds her of Anne and makes her even sadder. She then passes a bench that reminds her of the time she molted, and Anne took great lengths to find a cure for her. Greya keeps on moving and soon comes across the bench where Anne spent the time when she was left alone because of Greya's business during the tests. Greya goes and sits on that bench reminiscing her time with Anne. Everywhere she passes, every spot reminds her of Anne and all their time together. Greya also comes across the school building, which falls because of Anne's interference in the drill just to protect her. Greya finally reaches the library to try to do some work. However, the library also does not restrain the memories of Anne and their shared time working there. She also recalls their hide-and-seek game which ended with Anne finding her sobbing. Greya does not understand what to do and sits in front of the library desk, just like Anne once sat because she failed to find Greya. She then decides to go and find Anne. She remembers the piano place where she and Anne had a wonderful time. She rushes towards it. Despite the heavy snow and the chilly air, Greya reaches the piano place. She finds Anne there, sitting all alone, trying to play the piano. Greya goes to her and asks whether she is playing the piano. Anne explains she came to play, but because of the snow, her hands are numb and she cannot play the piano now. Greya sits with Anne on the piano bench, but Anne slides a bit to keep a distance from Greya. This time, Greya does not want to drag the misunderstanding any further. She slides to sit close to Anne and puts her hand over Anne's. She invites Anne for tea to help her get warm. Back in the school, Hannah gathers some students and makes them aware of the dispute happening between two princesses, Anne and Greya. She plans to hold an intervention to get them back together. She gets a vote of confidence from the students. So together with them, she goes to resolve the matter between friends. As soon as they approach Anne and Greya, they are all surprised to find the two having tea and chatting normally. Soon the semester meets to an end, and many students pack their bags to go to their homes after such a long time. Many students, including Anne, are going home, but Greya intends to stay in the academy. While both are having tea in their favorite spot, Greya wonders how much time they are left with being together. Before leaving, Anne hands over Greya an envelope and leaves with Owen. Greya then visits Hannah and comes to know she is going home. She hands over dorm keys to Greya for her to use during the break and leaves. Greya then goes to Miranda and wonders if she stayed here at the academy. Miranda informs Greya that she is planning to go on a trip to gather some materials for her work. During this break duration, Miranda gives Greya best wishes for her stay at the dorm alone and takes leave. Greya decides to sit in the library to try to remove the loneliness from her shoulder. She just sits in the library, and the librarian Willems informs her to leave the books because they don't borrow them during the semestral break time. Greya decides to give Anne her goodbye wishes, and for this purpose, she visits her room. Greya knocks at the door, but to her surprise, she finds the door open. She enters inside and finds the room completely empty. It frightens her because she thinks Anne has left and will never come back. Just then, Owen reaches Greya and takes her to Anne. Annie is dressed up to leave for home but prefers to meet Greya before leaving. She notices how Greya seems sad and asks her if she had opened the envelope. She explains the letter would have told her the reason for her empty room. Greya immediately reads the letter and finds that Anne is not leaving her but has applied for a room share with Greya because she wants to spend the rest of her time in the academy with Greya. However, this time, Greya does not feel embarrassed but instead happily agrees with Anne. Time passes and the student begins to return to the dorm. While Greya is sitting at her favorite tea spot, Hannah approaches her and hands over a paper to Greya. The paper is the confirmation of Anne and Greya's mutual room, which Greya has to confirm after Anne returns. Just when Hannah goes, Greya hears Anne's voice, which means she has finally returned after making Greya wait for a long time. Both are going through the rest of their time at the academy with their special friendship.